Familiar, you're familiar. So if you don't know by now, then you should probably get familiar.
Hello students, so welcome back to my video. So now in this video we are going to discuss the next chapter, that is the title of the chapter is Special Theory of Relativity. Okay, so you can consider this is the first part of the video on this chapter, Special Theory of Relativity. Okay, so okay, now first of all in the introduction part let us try to understand what is relativity. Okay, the very first question is you have to understand the new concept called relativity. So let us try to understand this concept with some examples here. Okay, so here I mentioned three parameters, okay, three physical quantities such as you can say length, position and size. Okay, so I am writing here length is relative, position is relative and size is also relative. So what do you mean by that? Okay, so let us start with the first one, that is length is relative. Okay, so let me explain you this concept. So with one very well known story about the Birbal and Akbar. Okay, so because Akbar once asked to his subordinates that, so he just drawn one line, okay, on the floor, and he asked his subordinates to make this line shorter. Okay, just put the question among his subordinates to make the line shorter, just like a puzzling question. So among all the subordinates he was asking that question, how to make the line shorter. So with the condition, what is that condition? Without rubbing the line or doing anything with the line, okay, you have to make the line shorter. How it is possible? So that was his question. Okay, but the subordinates were not able to answer for that. So they thought that you can make the line shorter only when it is rubbed. Okay, suppose if it is rubbed like this, then it will become shorter than the earlier length. That was the answer for among them. Okay, but his condition is you should not rub the line and you have to make the line shorter without rubbing it. Okay, and you know that the Birbal was very intelligent among all his subordinates. He just came forward and he made the line shorter without rubbing it. How it is possible? Okay, he just demonstrated that by just drawing another bigger line like this. Okay, just he draw the other line. Now he is asking that what happened to your line, to the king Akbar. Then automatically the line drawn by the Akbar becomes shorter than the line drawn by the Birbal. So in that way he made the line shorter. Compared to this line it becomes shorter, right, isn't it? So that is the very interesting story. Okay, now the conclusion is, so length is relative. So the measurement of any length is always relative. So without relation, with respect to any other reference frame, okay, so we cannot make the things shorter or longer also. Now we can just conclude that, see, this line, first line is shorter than this line, second line is, of course, we can say it is longer. How do you say longer? Suppose if there is no first line here, how do you say whether it is longer or shorter? So you have to compare that line to the any other line. Suppose if I compare this line to this first line, then we can say this line is longer than the first line, like that. So by comparing to each other we can say which is shorter, which is longer. So in that way we can conclude that length is relative. Is it clear? Or we can say one more example. Let us say this pen. So how do you say whether it is length, pen is shorter or longer? Okay, you cannot just tell that whether it is a shorter or longer without comparing to other one, right? So now if I take some stick like this, okay, see, this is a stick now. So now you can say that the pen is shorter than the stick, right? So this is what actually the comparison. So the comparison is nothing but what the concept called relativity. Okay, that relative observation is very important here. So compared to the stick, the pen becomes shorter, or we can say compared to the pen, the stick is longer. Okay, so similarly if I take another example like a small pencil, so now we can say that the pencil become automatically shorter than the pen, right? So like that without comparison. So suppose if there is another object, we cannot say it is a shorter or longer. By comparing to other object like this, then we can say the given object is shorter or longer. So in that way we can understand the concept called length is relative. Measurement is always relative quantity. Clear? Okay, now similarly you can prove that position is relative. So in order to understand this concept, okay, I will consider a simple example, let us say there is a pool like this, okay, and there is a house at one end, okay, and then I will consider the two observers here. I will consider two observers standing on either side of the banks of the river. Let us say this is a river or pool, whatever you say, okay. Then observer 1 and observer 2. Now if I ask these observers, where is the house? What they will tell? Where is the house is the question, okay. So one of the observer will say, standing at one side of the river and looking at the other observer facing towards the river, let us say, he will say the house is left side to him, okay. He will say it is left side to him. But if I consider the other observer like this, okay, he will say house is right side to him, okay. One observer says it is left side to him, other observer say it is right side to him. Which is the answer correct? So in fact both are correct, right, isn't it? So both are correct. So that means the position of the house, okay, is actually expected to be depending upon the observer. So from where he is looking at the position of the house. So that means the position of any object is always relative with respect to which observer you are telling. With respect to this observer, it is left side. With respect to second observer, it is right side. So both are correct, okay. So in that way you have to understand the position or location, okay, anything can be measured always with respect to one particular frame of reference. In this case, so we can consider the previous chapter discussion as a frame of reference, okay. These observers acts as now frames of reference, okay. With respect to that observers, we can say where is the position of a given object. So that is the concept of called position is relative, okay. And similarly we can prove that size, the measurement of size is also relative, okay. So what is the example can be considered here now to say size is relative? Simple example, okay, if I consider a small marble, let us say a small marble. So I already told marble is small. How do you say marble is small? So I think it is very small compared to other objects. So in my mind there may be, let us say, a football, okay. So with respect to that football, in my mind I can say marble is very small, right. And similarly football is bigger compared to the marble. So with this comparison only we can say one of the object is smaller, one of the other object is bigger, okay. Without reference to other one, we cannot say the given object, size of the given object is small or big. In that way we can say size is relative. Other example, if I consider, let us say okay, an atom. All of you know that atom is the smallest one. Why? So any other objects you take in the universe, all other objects are very bigger compared to atom. Atom is smallest quantity, okay. So atom is small compared to, okay, let us say even if you can compare it to marble. Marble is smaller compared to football, and football also can be smaller when, suppose if I compare with the earth, let us say, okay. What is the size of the earth? Very huge, you know. So compared to earth, so football is also very, very small, and earth also can be considered as a very small when you compare with it the sun, that is the size of the sun. So automatically earth becomes very small compared to size of the sun. So in that way, so the size of any object can be considered as whether it is small or bigger only when it is compared to other object. So that is why you can say size is always relative. Clear? Now look at the next example, that is time. Again consider even time is also relative. So in order to prove that, so how do you say time is relative? The question is, what is the time now? You just consider the simple question, what is the time now? So automatically you will say with respect to your watch, okay, whatever the time it is showing, so you will say some time, let us say 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, something like that. So let us say 3 p.m. You will say 3 p.m. is the time now, okay. So now if I ask the same question at the same time to a person who is in the America, so will he say the same time? Okay, so you cannot say the time is now 3 p.m. isn't it? Because with respect to his time, where he is standing in India, let us say, so his time is actually showing 3 p.m. But at the same particular instant, the person who is in the America will say the different time. So then what do you say? Is the time is constant wherever you go? No, isn't it? So that means the measurement of time is also relative. So with respect to India, the time may be 3 p.m. At the same time, with respect to a person in the America, the time is different other than 3 p.m. It may be 1 a.m. Okay, approximately I am telling. So that is different, no? Automatically this time is different from this time where is measured in the America. So in that way we can say time, the measurement time is not absolute quantity, it is again a relative quantity. Okay, that is very interesting, no? So then similarly you can prove the another parameter, let's say some motion. Let us say you can measure the velocity or whatever it is. Okay, motion in the sense it may be velocity particularly. Okay, so now how do you say the motion is relative? So for that let us consider a simple example as I mentioned here. See, look at the simple figure here. So I have a stationary observer. Let us say O1 is a stationary observer standing on the platform of a train. Okay, so a train is moving across the stationary observer with what velocity? Let us say 100 km per hour. The train is moving with the speed of 100 km per hour away from the observer in a direction, let us say left to right. I am showing the direction also with the arrow mark. Now this motion of the train can be observed by 3 persons, let us say. What are the 3 persons? One is stationary observer O1. Okay, I will consider another observer, so that is O2. So across this railway track we have a motion of a car. Let us say there is a motion of car across the train. So and that car is moving with the speed of 30 km per hour, let us say. Okay, just for example, it is moving 30 km per hour. In what direction? In the same direction of the train. Then who is the third observer? So another train is coming towards the station in the opposite direction. So with the speed of 40 km per hour. So that observer is now O3. Okay. Now with respect to these observers, station observer and a person or observer in the car and another observer in the train which is coming in the opposite direction. So now how do you justify the velocity of the given train? That is actually considered as a reference train here. So 100 km per hour speed is observed by which observer? That is with respect to stationary observer, because he is standing, he is not moving. Okay, with respect to a stationary observer, the train is moving with the speed of 100 km per hour. That is correct. Okay. Now with respect to second observer O2, what is the speed of the train? So will he observe the velocity of the train as same as 100 km per hour? No, because he himself is already moving with 30 km per hour. He cannot say that the train is moving 100 km per hour with respect to him. So you have to subtract that velocity. So whatever he is moving, so that velocity must be subtracted in the velocity of the train. Then you will feel what is the velocity of the train here. That means he is finding that the train is moving with the speed of 100 minus 30, that is equal to how much? 70 kilometers per hour. So that is what the speed observed by a observer who is moving in the same direction of the train. Clear? Now what about the observer O3? So who is coming in the opposite direction in the train, and train is moving just 40 kilometers per hour, let us say. Then he feel that so the coming which is coming in the opposite direction to him, okay, is approaching as fast as possible. Okay, even though it is moving just 100 kilometers per hour, he feels that it is moving more speed with a more speed. What is that speed? So he thinks that it is moving with the speed of 100 already by the given train, and his speed must be added to this. 100 plus 40 is equal to much? 140, okay, kilometers per hour is the speed observed by the observer O3. Okay, moving in the opposite direction to the given train. So in that way, see, the speed of the observer is also not actually an absolute quantity. Okay, that is a relative one. So motion in general, you can say motion is a relative one, whether you measure with respect to a fixed observer or a moving observers. If you consider moving observers, in what direction the observers are moving, whether they are moving in the same direction or in the opposite direction. So with respect to that, we can justify the motion, and hence we can say motion is also relative. So like that, there are so many parameters you can justify with respect to a particular frame of reference. So that is the beauty of observation here. So according to Einstein, so all these parameters earlier before Einstein, so we are considering so many parameters as actually absolute quantities, and later we can prove that those quantities are not actually absolute. Okay, they are variant. Okay, with respect to, when you say with respect to, you have to understand that you are measuring with respect to some frame of reference. That frame of reference may be stationary observer, that frame of reference may be moving observer. Okay, moving in the sense maybe in the same direction or in the opposite direction, etc. Okay, so anything, so many things you can say, so are relative quantities, physical quantities according to Einstein. So now I think you understood what theory of relativity. Okay, so we can say now the theory of relativity is the theory that deals with the relativity of rest and motion. You have to consider the concept called rest and motion. If there is any motion, you have to consider the motion is also relative with respect to a rest observer, and then there is a relation between rest and motion. That is why you can say the theory that deals with the relativity of rest and motion is the theory of relativity in general. Okay, so according to Einstein, so in his theory of relativity paper, we will come across the measurement of any objects with respect to a fixed frame of reference. So and then again further we can classify that theories as two types here. Okay, so types of theory of relativity as a special theory of relativity and general theory of relativity, because the motion of an object so may be accelerated or may not be accelerated. Okay, and hence we are always considering two types of theories here. Suppose if I consider the special theory of relativity, okay, it always refers to the motion of observers and events that do not exhibit any acceleration. So in this discussion of special theory of relativity, so velocity must be considered as constant. So if velocity is constant, you know that so acceleration is 0. So it will not consider any acceleration of the objects in the particular examples. So that discussion is called actually special theory of relativity. Okay, suppose if I consider acceleration is admitted in the measurement, then that is called general theory of relativity here. So general theory of relativity admits the acceleration among the moving objects. Okay. Okay, now let us see what are the postulates of theory of relativity given by Einstein in 1905. Okay, so he has published a very important paper in 1905, and now based on that paper only we are able to understand the special theory of relativity. Okay, so with the whatever the examples so far we have discussed, how to understand the motion and the rest with respect to each other and all. Okay, so these are the two important postulates to be kept in mind. Okay, so what are the two important postulates given by Einstein? See, all physical laws, electromagnetic and even mechanical also. Okay, not only mechanical, the motion of objects with respect to an observer, etc. Even it is applicable for electromagnetic things also, where there is a relative motion between the coil and the magnet, etc. Okay, so even that is also considered under the theory as all physical laws including electromagnetic and mechanical must be same in all inertial frames of reference. So you know already what is inertial frame of reference. Okay, so they should be considered constant or should be same with respect to only inertial frame of reference. For example, Earth is considered as inertial frame of reference only. Okay, even though Earth is moving around the Sun, by ignoring that motion we can consider Earth as a inertial frame of reference. That's it. Okay, the objects which are standing on the Earth is considered as the fixed frame of reference, and they are also inertial frame of reference. So like that, if you are doing anything in the laboratory, let us say by considering laboratory as a inertial frame of reference, then whatever the laws, physical laws we take, okay, they are all comes to be same under the observations. That is what the first law. Okay, then the second observation, that is second postulate, is now the velocity of light. So this is very important quantity. Okay, velocity of light. So all observations, actually all physical quantities we are considering variant quantities under the special theory of relativity, right? But except this velocity of light. See, velocity of light, what is say measured particularly in the vacuum, is the same in all inertial frames. It is not actually considered as a variant quantity, it is a invariant quantity. Okay, so it does not depend on the velocity of the observer, or it does not depend on the velocity of the source of light where the light is emitting. Okay, whether the source is moving or it may be fixed, etc. but once the light is emitted and moving with certain velocity, so that velocity of light, okay, is always considered as constant. That means velocity of light is an invariant quantity. Okay, you have to consider it is a invariant quantity. So except that, so we can consider so many physical quantities as variant quantities. For example, mass, for example, length, okay, and time. So many parameters already proved in the previous videos, right? So except those, so velocity of light physical quantity is considered as actually invariant quantity. So by keeping these two postulates in the mind, we can try to understand the theory of relativity given by the Einstein. Clear? So from the next video, I think we can start with the derivation on Lagrange transformations. How we have discussed the Galilean transformation, you know. Similarly, in the special theory of relativity, you have to start with the Lagrange transformation equations. Okay, so we'll discuss and derive that equations in the next video. Okay, see you then. Bye. Thank you for watching this video.